Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. We're on episode 55 of Stewarts Soundbites, which is absolutely insane, but we're still here, we're still going, and I'm so delighted today to be bringing you something so interesting and a wee bit different. So I'm joined today by Helen Jackson, who, well, lots of you are going to know Helen already, but if not, she's the Managing Director of Bush & Co. And Bush & Co. provide case management and expert witness services. And today's, we do so many episodes, Helen, about, well, first of all, welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
We do so many episodes about our clients and injury, and that's how it should, that's great. And we do probably not enough episodes for ourselves because we work in a really challenging, really demanding environment, and I thought this would be kind of a nice point where everything's a bit mad in the world at the moment. I thought it'd be quite a nice point to do something reflecting upon how we feel in ourselves and looking at kind of drawing on your experience of this. So today we're talking about resilience, and this applies obviously, it's kind of crucial, isn't it, Helen, to kind of coping with any massive incident in our lives, which applies to our clients who've often been involved in these accidents. But for us, it's interesting to kind of reflect upon how resilience impacts us in delivering client service and in the work that we do. So we're going to turn it around a little bit and have a conversation about us today. But I wanted to kick off, Helen, if you don't mind, talking about you, because you've had a kind of an interesting path to kind of where we are today, and the last 2 years have been absolutely just mind-boggling for all of us, haven't they? But you've had a rather kind of life-changing experience, and I wondered, in the context of this discussion about resilience, whether you could just tell us a wee bit about your experience and kind of what's brought you to the point you're at today.
Yeah, sure, no problem at all. So I guess there's kind of two chapters to it. So in a nutshell, back in 2018, when my son was about 3.5, I was diagnosed with ductal carcinoma in situ, which is an early stage breast cancer. And what that did was, for me, really bring to the fore kind of the importance of physiological self-care and trying to understand what led to that point for my health. I'm not really a why me sort of person, so that was never factored in. I was actually very curious about what might have influenced that outcome. And so I had a mastectomy in June 2018. And I sort of did a lot of research post that point around how I might influence the future. Because breast cancer, for those who don't know about it, is quite a tricky little disease, because it can come back, and actually it did for me, and it came back in January 2020, and I had further surgery just before lockdown. I had it twice because the histology wasn't quite right, and the difference with the second time round was that in between having a scan, a full body scan, to look to see whether it's travelled, if you like, and having a PET CT, which looks for movement, for those who don't know, they thought they'd found cancer in my liver. And so, without being dramatic, there was only a week, but it was a hell of a long week and the worst week of my life so far. I had to have a chat with the consultant, who basically said, teary-eyed, because he's lovely as Mr. Khan and he's my future husband, he doesn't know it yet. He's brilliant. And I see him once a year now, touch wood. And he actually said, I think you need to think about Germany. I was like, why am I thinking about Germany? And he said, because they're more aggressive in terms of how they look at cancer and how they treat cancer. Here, it wouldn't be a great prognosis if this diagnosis is correct. So I was left for a week with the message that I could have kind of 2 years to live. At that point. No, it was only a week, so I thank my lucky stars it wasn't. Now, what that does though is really, really focus your mind around what's important, who matters, what self-care is, how it impacts on others, and actually looking after yourself first is first and foremost the most important thing to do to then enable you to look after everyone else.
Yeah.
And culturally, societally, there are pressures on men not to do that and behave strong, and there's pressure on women to be the carer and look after her, right? So there's all sorts of cultural things wrapped up within this. So the positive was, obviously, as you may have gathered, the PET-CT revealed it was something else. But what that episode did was make me think about the body and the mind as a system, okay? And it's so important because that means you can influence it positively, but equally there are things that you can be doing to yourself, for yourself, that could be influencing things negatively. So I really, really got curious around self-care, both physically and then self-care emotionally. So, and so I take great positives from my experience so far, because I've learned so much more about what it is to look after oneself in all those ways, and come out stronger as a result. So that's how I've got to the point of sort of resilience and my own journey. Those who know me know I don't like that word. But,
yeah. I heard that because I've listened to your podcast. Helen's got a podcast, and we'll post the link to it actually with the recording, because it's really, really, really good. Definitely worth a listen. So we'll post that link. But I will confess, Helen, that I have had the luxury of being a wishy-washy kind, thinking about this stuff and as a wishy-washy kind of thing, thinking about self-care as I wouldn't even say it's like a secondary consideration, or hasn't been for me before. It's kind of been, all of these mad list of things that you've got to do, and if you've got time for a coffee outside, then I've won. And I never have really applied myself that much to this concept, and I'm wondering how it kind of came to life for you. You talk about how obviously you had this unbelievable experience and you had that week of agony, and how have you kind of put this stuff into practice, the things that you've been talking about, and making these changes in your life and fulfilling this kind of agenda of self-care?
Yeah. Well, in some ways it's easier for me, right? Because if you've had the Grim Reaper knock at your door, it somewhat focuses your mind, right? So in that way, it was easier for me. So I guess first and foremost, as an individual, you kind of have to know you and get your why. It sounds a bit cheesy, but until you appreciate your own drivers, motivations and priorities, and really start to unpick what's important to you, and work backwards as to how you can apply that in terms of lifestyle adjustments, you're going to be somewhat fighting a losing battle. So how I did it was, there's incremental changes. If you do the whole New Year's resolution, that's me, I'm not drinking, you're almost doomed to fail, right? Life and habit just takes over and you ain't gonna win. So it was about incremental small changes that I could build habitually into my life that I honestly believe most people could do. So for example, starting the day, I have a pint of water. Okay, I drink a pint of water, the alarm goes off, drink a pint of water, and what that does is it basically flushes your stomach, it balances your lymphatic system, and it's sort of a stable lymphatic system actually means you've got a stronger immune system. It's a tiny little thing that anyone could do. Now, someone who does mindfulness will say you should look at nature as you're in that water, you can really build in it, but we won't worry about that right now. And then I treated myself to a fresh orange squeeze on Amazon. Other retailers are no doubt available. And I'll have a glass of wonderful sunshine, vitamin C with lemon and orange every day, which I'll have squeezed the night before and banged it in the fridge. So again, literally a 2-minute job. And obviously filling yourself with vitamin C. And then I have a joke where I have my Shrek juice, and people at work or even friends who've seen me, well, this disgusting brown coloured concoction of Ming. I'm not selling it. It's not going to make MasterChef. However, what that was based on was me doing a lot of reading, and there's a delightful book called How Not to Die, and it gives you lots of scientific based research on the benefits of different kinds of principally vegetables, but other things. And so literally I would blend, not juice, broccoli, celery, cucumber, turmeric, ginger, beetroot juice goes in there, apple cider vinegar, because that's actually got really health promoting effects. blueberries, black grapes because they're good for anti-breast cancer, all this sort of stuff. So I've got this like nice long list of ingredients that just gets chucked in, mixed together, and I have that 5 times a week. It's not massive quantities, it's kind of a NutriBullet type thing. And what was interesting around that is that change in as much about what you're putting in as what you're trying to leave out was quite fundamental to me. So I personally noticed before doing all this, I'd often get colds, I get chest infections quite often, I feel run down quite often. And post doing that, I don't not get ill, I'm not, obviously I'm susceptible, as we all are, but I noticed sort of my energy levels and my health levels have dramatically improved. And I also cut out certain things. So I no longer eat bacon, sausage, I've cut down red meat, I avoid white wine now, I don't involve alcohol, full stop. So I'm not completely, I'm not a smugtarian yet, I haven't reached that level yet, Emma. I'm not perfect, it's safe to say, but there are, my point is, dietary wise, you don't need to get hung up on starving yourself things. I've cut down on processed sugar and things like that. So if you get curious about what you can add in as opposed to what you must avoid or starve yourself with, that is really powerful, because again, the body's impacting the mind, and then that comes on to exercise. And there's all forms of exercise that you can do. And so even down to, so with yoga, I'm a real fan of yoga, and some of my friends mock me and go, you don't even break a sweat with yoga, you just pull yourself into funny poses. And actually, there was some research, I think it was Boston University Medical Center, and they actually found that when it comes to improving things like mood, it's linked to increased GABA, the gamma aminobutyric acid, which low levels are associated with anxiety and depression. So there's different things going on outside of it helps keep your body toned, right? And obviously exercise, you'll know this, but it's got so many benefits in terms of releasing endorphins, it releases dopamine, it doesn't just affect your heart rate, it helps with your sleep cycles, your mood, your attention. And so if you can engage in a form of regular exercise, be it from home, be it in a community setting, which has a lot of advantages, actually you're helping your resilience levels in the workplace, in your role as a parent, and your ability to sort of handle stress then expands as well. So again, I'm not saying you need to exercise every day. My consultant did say don't smoke, don't gain weight, and exercise daily, and again that helped me. But there are incremental things you can look at, and you may have heard of diaphragmatic breathing, or belly breathing. And I don't know if you know this, but those who engage in diaphragmatic breathing have longer life expectancy. And there's again an exercise you can do, which is literally can be between 5 and 10 minutes a day. You can combine it with making a coffee, you can combine it with you laying in the bath, it doesn't matter. But it's about, if you look it up online, a deep breath in, holding, and a slow release through pierced lips. Just doing that has a massive impact on your resilience levels, and by which I mean it can actually help with, believe it or not, PTSD, lowering blood pressure, handling stress, and it's just little things that I just did that, by the way. I always promise myself I'll do that. That can make quite a big difference to you.
Yeah. And I kind of wish at this point that we could see the people watching this, because I imagine everyone in their chairs going, they're deep breathing. Let's start now.
Exactly. If we all just do a deep breath in, feel yeah, we haven't quite got the time for that, but it's worth looking up. And obviously it can then help sleep better, and exercise generally. Sleep, it goes without saying. There's a reason why sleep deprivation is used as a weapon of torture.
And one thing that and I asked you this when we talked before, and we've only got a minute or two left, but it's a good one to end on, actually, because I hear you talking about all this stuff and I think that sounds great, and ideally I would love to do that, but I think to myself, the little voice in the back of my head is like, in what world do you have time to go and make a smoothie like that? Or what, you just, how can I possibly fit any of that into my day.
Yeah.
You know, do you have any kind of top tips for cheating?
Yeah, I mean, this comes back to what I said about kind of your own personal imperative and what you prioritize. So if, for example, you have time to watch telly, if you like a long coffee break, I don't know, whatever the things are, try and blend them in with your habit, excuse the pun, blend. And also, if you can, if you're lucky enough to live with someone who's prepared to support you and be almost like a sponsor, get someone who will encourage you and give you that space to do what people think is, I'm doing it again, selfish time. But actually it's not selfish time, because in looking after yourself, you are looking after others. And it's just, again, deciding for yourself, actually, I'm worth this. There's a whole separate psychological discussion around putting others first before yourself, by the way, but there was no time for that now. But it really is about what is important to you and getting that support in achieving that.
Yeah. It's so interesting, Helen, and a few last question, I promise. Have you found that kind of doing these things and making these incremental kind of adjustments in your life have kind of developed into just a routine and not a big deal, and B, impacted upon your kind of functioning at work?
Absolutely, and I have to say, I'm glad you've asked me that, because I haven't used the M word, which is mindfulness. So the reason why I found that one of the most impactful has been, people think mindfulness is emptying your head, right? There's only two states in which you can empty your head: death or enlightenment. And very few of us have achieved enlightenment. So, and the other one feels, self-explanatory. And what mindfulness does, and you can use an app that I highly recommend, and I'm not on any commission, called 10% Happier, because it helps you through it. What it does is allow you to realize that when a thought comes in to your head, because you're a human, that's what happens. When the process of the thought coming in, you recognizing it's there, and then you sending it packing, for want of a better word, helps you to realize that you are not your thoughts, which also helps you to realize that your emotions are not your thoughts. As odd as this sounds, why is that significant? It's significant because if you just do that 10 minutes a day, it enables you to recognize that those moments of stress, pressure, when your hot buttons are pressed, whatever it might be, as a human, you will have them, trust me. You can go, oh, hang on a minute, okay, this is happening for me. And that level of self-awareness and that control gives you a level of strength and an ability to manage what's happening around you, which means you're less stressed. Because what's important to know is emotions have cycles. Like a digestive system has a cycle of a beginning, a middle, and an end. So do emotions. And in your high-powered role and how busy you are as a mama, if all you're doing is starting that cycle, getting stressed, feeling the threat, but then there isn't the release via laughter, journaling, exercise, shouting, reflecting, owning it, it's all going in there. And what that ultimately means is, when you're doing your work, when you're being a mom, it has a negative output on that. So my top tip would actually be, get curious around mindfulness as well as a bit of exercise, because I've noticed in my work, my ability to deal with bigger pressures and characters that may be a bit challenging from time to time has much improved.
Wow. Oh my goodness, you've given me so much. Maybe this is why I'm stuck in a constant cycle of crazy. I just feel like, just feeling so busy all the time, and it's kind of, and you've made it sound and feel like something that's really achievable. So tomorrow I'm going to start my day with a pint of water, and my body will be saying, where is my coffee? But I'm going to do it.
Your coffee can come. Coffee's good in reasonable quantities as well. But I'll be off on one. We'll be here for hours and then we'll get complaints. But yeah, so do it. It's the incremental gains, Emma.
Thank you so much for that, Helen, because I think a lot of the time we do have this idea that you've got to have this kind of New Year's Day attitude to everything and think, right, cut all of this stuff out, I'm going to start doing this, and it just feels so unattainable. But you've made it feel really achievable and bite-sizey and brilliant. So I'm very, very grateful to you, Helen. Thank you ever so much for your time and for your insight, and just for being with us and explaining everything that you have so well. And I encourage everyone to go and listen to Helen's podcast, because it is brilliant. The link has kindly been inserted in the chat box. So click on it, we'll make it available on the recording on the website as well. And we haven't had time to take any questions, Helen. I didn't even offer because I knew that we were going to go over time. But if anyone has any questions, please send them. You can send them directly to me or to Helen, and we'll come back to you by email. And thank you all so much for joining us, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for having me.
Cheers.
Bye.